J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. Don't want to pressure you, Potter, but if we ever need an early capture of the snitch, it's now. Finish the game before Snape can flavor Hufflepuff too much. Back in the changing room, Wood had taken Harry aside. The whole school out's there, said Fred Weasley, peering out of the door. Even Blimmy, Dumbledore's come to watch. Harry's heart did a somersault. Dumbledore? He said, dashing to the door to make sure Fred was right. There was no mistaking that silver beard. Harry could have laughed out loud with relief. He was safe. There was simply no way that Snape would dare to try and hurt him if Dumbledore was watching. Perhaps that was why Snape was looking so angry as the teams marched onto the pitch, something that Ron noticed too. I've never seen Snape look so mean, he told Hermione. Look, they're off! Ouch! Someone had poked Ron in the back of her head. It was Malfoy. Oh, sorry, Weasley. Didn't see you there. Malfoy grinned boredly as Crabbe and Goyle. Wonder how long Potter's going to stand his broom this time? Anyone want to bet? What about you, Weasley? Ron didn't answer. Snape had just awarded Hufflepuff a penalty because George Weasley had hit Bulger at him. Hermione, who had all her fingers crossed in her lap, was squinting fixedly at Harry, who was circling the game like a hawk, looking for the snitch. You know how I think they chose people for the Gryffindor team? Said Malfoy loudly. A few minutes later, Snape awarded Hufflepuff another penalty for no reason at all. It's people they feel sorry for. See, there's Potter, who's got no parents, when there's the Weasleys, who got no money. You should be on the team, Longbottom. You've got no brains. Neville went bright red, but turned in his seat to face Malfoy. I'm worth 12th of you, Malfoy, he stammered. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle howled with laughter, but Ron, still not daring to take his eyes from the game, said, You tell him, Neville. Longbottom, if brains were gold, you'd be poorer than Weasley, and that's saying something. Ron's nerves were already stretched to breaking point with anxiety about Harry. I'm warning you, Malfoy. One more word. Ron, said Hermione suddenly. Harry, what? Where? Harry had suddenly gone into a special drive, which drew gasps and cheers from the ground. Hermione stood up, her crossed fingers in her mouth, as Harry streaked towards the ground like a bullet. You're in luck, Weasley. Potter's obviously spotted some money on the ground, said Malfoy. Ron snapped. Before Malfoy knew that was happening, Ron was on top of him, wrestling him to the ground. Neville hesitated, then clambered over the back of his seat to help. Come on, Harry! Hermione screamed, leaping onto her seat to watch Harry speed straight at Snape. She didn't even notice Malfoy and Ron rolling around under her seat, or the scuffles and yelps coming from the thrill of twists that was Neville, Crabbe, and Goyle. Up in the air, Snape turned on his broomstick just in time to see something scarlet shoot past him, missing him by the inches next second. Harry had put out of the drive. His arm raised in the triumph. The snitch clasped in his hands. The stance disrupted. It had to be a record. No one could ever remember the snitch being caught so quickly. Run, where are you? The game's over. Harry won. We won. Gryffindor added the lead, shrieked Hermione, dancing up and down on her seat and hugging Parvati Patil in the round of front. Harry jumped off his broom, a foot from the ground. He couldn't believe it. He'd done it. The game was over. It barely wasted 5 minutes. As Gryffindor came spilling onto the pitch, he saw Snape land nearby, white-faced and tight-lipped, when Harry felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up into Dumbledore's smiling face. Well done, said Dumbledore quietly, so that only Harry could hear. Nice to see you haven't been brooding about the mirror. Keeping busy. Excellent. Snape spat bitterly on the ground. Harry left the changing room alone some time later to take his Nimbus 2000 back to the broom shed. He couldn't ever remember feeling happier. He'd really done something to be proud of now. No one could say he was just a famous name anymore. The evening air had been smelled so sweet. He walked out of the damp grass, relieving the last hour in his head, which was a happy blur. Gryffindors running to lift him on the shoulders, Ron and Hermione in the distance jumping up and down, Ron cheering through the heavy nosebleed. Harry had reached the shed. He leaned against the wooden door and looked up at Hogwarts with its windows glowing red in the setting sun, Gryffindor in the lead. He'd done it. He'd showed Snape. And speaking of Snape, a hooded figure came swiftly down the thorn steps of the castle. Clearly not wanting to be seen, it walked as fast as possible towards the forbidden forest. Harry's victory faded from his mind as he watched. He recognized the figure's prowling walk. Snape, sneaking into the forest while everyone else was at dinner. What was going on? Harry jumped back on his Nimbus 2000 and took off. Gliding suddenly over the castle, he saw Snape enter a forest at run. He followed. The trees were so thick he couldn't see where Snape had gone. He flew in circles, slower and lower, brushing the top branches of trees until he heard voices. He glided towards them and landed noiselessly in a towering beech tree. He climbed carefully along one of the branches, holding tight to his broomstick, trying to see through the leaves. Below, in a shadowy clearing, stood Snape, but he wasn't alone. Quirrell was there too. Harry couldn't make out the look on his face, but he was stuttering worse than ever. Harry strained to catch what they were saying. Don't know why you wanted to meet her out of the places, Severus. Oh, I thought we'd keep this private, said Snape, his voice icy. Students aren't supposed to know about the Sorcerer's Stone. Not at all. Harry leaned forward. Quirrell was mumbling something. Snape interrupted him. Have you found out how to get past the Beast of Hagrid's yet? But Severus, you don't want me as your enemy, Quirrell, said Snape, taking a step towards him. I don't know you know perfectly what I mean. An owl hooted loudly and Harry nearly fell off the tree. He steadied himself in time to hear Snape say, "You little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting." But I don't... Very well, Snape cut in. We'll have another little chat soon, when you've had time to think things over and decided where your loyalties lie. He threw his cloak over his head and strode out the clearing. It was almost dark now, but Harry could see Quirrell standing quite still as though he was petrified. Harry, where have you been? Hermione squeaked. We won! Shouted Ron, thumping Harry on the back. And I gave Malfoy a black eye, and Neville tried to get off the trap and Goyle single-handed. He's still out cold, but Madame Pomfrey says he'll be all right. Talk about your show in Slytherin. Everyone's waiting for you in the common room. We're having a party. Fred and George stole cakes and stuff from the kitchens. Never mind that now, said Harry breathlessly. Let's find an empty room. You wait till you hear this. He made sure Peeves wasn't inside it before shutting the door behind them. Then he told them what he'd seen and heard. So we were right. It is the Sorcerer's Stone, and Snape's trying to force Quirrell to help him get it. He asked if he knew how to get past Fluffy, and he'd said something about Quirrell's hocus pocus. I recall there are other things guarding the stone apart from Fluffy. Loads of enchantments, probably, and Quirrell would have done something to dark art spells, which Snape needs to break through. So you mean the stone's only safe as long as Quirrell stand up to Snape? Said Hermione in alarm. It will be gone by next Tuesday, said Ron.